cocks, excuse me, I can allow the hens and the cocks to go into that nest box section every Saturday and every time they go for a toss. So that's their motivation to come home. So come home and get into that nest box section and, well, fool around with each other. All right. That's a picture of the loft. That's what it looks like. You can just see a little bit of it here, but that's that little bit of ventilation covered in a cowl there at the back that I found I had to do when I moved down there, and that made the performances go to the next level. I've got these couple of things here that lift up. I put race crates on there in the off season. I'll let the pigeons come out there, and it also learns them to go into there so I can run them in easily to take them on their training tosses. So that's just part of it. That's where their water's kept under there. These are two places where I can let them go, let them out, or I can also let them out up there. The doors here, they can land outside there, they can land in there, or they can land in those little parts. There's the light systems that I've got there. They're on the timers, and the ventilation that's controlled there. It's under floor. I think if we go to the next scene, next picture. Oh, that's when I said I moved the loft. I had it at the old property. That was one of the worst days of my life. You wouldn't believe it. I picked it Friday and the weather forecast was perfect. And that crane lifted that loft up to there. Well, first of all, I had to drop the roof off. The roof's been dropped off there because they said that won't fit down the road on the back of a truck. It weighs 5 tonne, that loft. They said that won't fit down the road, so I had to drop the roof down. And at 1 o'clock, when that roof was up like that, an electrical storm hit. And the crane driver rang his boss, and the boss said, "Get out of that crane and get out of there as soon as you can." So the loft was sitting there while this storm went over. Then finally the storm passed after an hour or so. He swung it around, put it on the back of the truck, and he was going to drive it out. And this neighbour who lives up here, whatever her bloody name is, she rang the council, because that's a council park there at the back of me. And she said, "There's a bloke in there with the truck and he's going to drive the truck over the council ground." And this council bloke come out and grabbed me and said, hey, what do you think you're doing? You can't do this. And the truck driver, being a truck driver, started to abuse him. And I had to grab the truck driver and say, "You go and sit in the truck, I'll deal with the council." And we had to negotiate. He rang his boss, which was a female, back at the council office. I explained that I'd looked after all that part. All these trees out here were actually in the parkland, and I planted all those and I had it all nice. And I pointed out to them, "Look, I've looked after all this, it's been good. I won't do any damage, I'll look after whatever the problem is." And they finally agreed. They said, "You have to have that out of there in the morning, we don't want to see it again." And so he took it out of there, put it on the back of the truck, and it took off. Well, the roof was partly off, it was shaking a bit, it broke a bit underneath. I had to go down to the new place, and I sat down there and I thought, okay, I hope it gets here. An hour or so later he turned up, and I thought, oh, thank God for that. He got his crane off, which was one of those franners that sort of can pick it up and drive. He started driving the new property and he got bogged. And he couldn't get out. And he had to get a truck, another truck, to come and tow him out. He said, "Look, I can't get the loft in there." So he just dumped it in the front of the property, and he took it back out again. And I spoke to the company that I had to do this, and they were saying, "Look, this is going to run, $5,000 or $6,000, And so by the time that day was finished, and it was still raining when we got down here, it was, like I said, the worst day of my life. I ended up negotiating with the truck driver. He come out, he was a nice bloke, and he said, "Look, give us $3,000, well, the crane bloke, he said, "Give me $3,000 cash and we'll forget it." And I said, "That'll do me." So anyway, move on. So that's inside the loft. This is the loft down at the new property. At the back there you can just see that new vent that I put in. What I've got is these big pieces of timber on the floor. I've got wire underneath all of the perches. You can see the droppings underneath there. They're dry droppings. I leave those in there. I clean the top of them out whenever I feel they need to be taken out, but I never take them all out. I believe that provides like a sponge effect to take the moisture out of the loft, keep the humidity down. That's looking under one of those floor panels. The importance of these floor panels, these wooden panels, is if I don't have that there, this is not taken during the moulting season, but during the moulting time, if you don't have that there, Whenever the pigeons fly down, dust and feathers and everything go up. If you have that piece of timber down, it creates some type of a swirling motion. Everything settles around here. All the loose stuff settles around there. That's the underfloor vent I have that's on a timer and a fan. And I have those on during the hot, humid months of February. Now, medication. I treat the stock for worms and lice, like I said. I don't give them any other medication. Same with the young ones. When I bring the young ones over, I don't give them any general medication. I don't treat them generally for canker or any of the other likely type things. I look to build that natural immunity. I will treat, like I said, some individual birds for canker if it's only minor and it's not affecting them greatly. But I'm a great believer in the dry droppings. I like to see those youngsters exposed to the dry droppings in my loft, because I believe that the immunity that my pigeons have is passed between each generation through those dry droppings, so it helps build the immunity between them. Like I said, during the racing season, it's the same thing. I don't have a regular program. I don't treat for canker every month or every second month or whatever it is. I just watch for performance, I watch for droppings, and I watch how the pigeons look. If I think I need to treat them, I've become pretty good at recognising pigeons that have something wrong with them. Like picking a youngster out that's got canker, you can see it, just the way they act and look. And I just treat based on what I think I need to do. I do have I use the prescription medications if I have to, like everyone does, the canker and coxy and those and antibiotics if absolutely necessary. I use Epronex and Equest Plus to treat the pigeons for worms. I've found that a lot of products that they use in the horse industry work very well with pigeons. Epronex is a poultry a cattle or sheep pour-on treatment. I give it to them in the water, and it works perfectly well with them. That will only treat for that won't treat for tapeworms. It'll treat for all the other worms, but not tapeworms. The Equest Plus, that's just moxidectin plus that praziquantel, so that'll treat for all of the worms. And Coupex, we have a lot of trouble up there with pigeon flies. I don't know if you have them down here. They're very important to control those pigeon flies because they put little pinholes in your flights when they're growing. They suck the blood and they transfer diseases and so forth too, so very important to control those. I always start the year off with not a pigeon fly in my loft. By the time we're 3/4 of the way through, I've got pigeon flies in the loft. So obviously other people in the lofts and other people in the fed are not so diligent. They're easy enough to treat with Coupex. It kills them pretty quickly, and that'll last 3 or 4 months on the pigeons. I think that's about all. Oh, keep going. I use some supplements. One thing I didn't mention there with the medications, I don't want to get my pigeons on that medication merry-go-round. Like I know people up in my federation who, what I say, they're on the medication merry-go-round. Before the season starts, they treat their pigeons for everything. I even know one fella up there, I'm not sure if he's still doing it, but he was treating his pigeons for 45 days straight with antibiotics to try and clean those pigeons right out. Now, Colin would probably know more about this than me, but to me that's just totally ridiculous. Because what's the point of cleaning all that out of the pigeons? You've destroyed all their natural immunity, they've developed no immunity. Now you're going to stick them in the race baskets where all of those diseases are prevalent, and they're going to get it all back again. And not only have they got it back, they've got no immunity to it. So what have you got to do? You've got to treat them again. And the only way you can get them anywhere like up and you're ready to race is by treating. So you treat them, then you put them back in, and they bring it back, and then you treat them. So you're on that merry-go-round. You're forever going around treating them. The only way to get off that is to have that, develop that immunity, like I said, by not treating your stock birds and not treating your young birds. If you've got some young birds that get sick and you've got 100 pigeons in your loft and 2 or 3 get sick, well, those 2 or 3 have to go. Because obviously if the rest are not sick, then they're just weak individuals, or they're susceptible to whatever's going around. Now, supplements, I do use a lot of supplements. When I say a lot, those ones up there. I like Acid Pack 4-Way. I use that in the water on Mondays, sometimes on Wednesdays if there's a lot of rain around. That's just got a couple of different acid types in it. It's a commercial product, you can buy it. It works very well with racing pigeons. Big believer in iodine. I think racing pigeons need iodine, but the thing with it, if you start giving your pigeons iodine, and I use Sanicheck, which is a iodine-based product for chickens. If you start giving your pigeons iodine, then you need to keep doing it every week. Because once they get to have it, they need it all the time, and it has to be consistent. So I give them iodine and Origo Stim in the water every Tuesday, every week of the year. Very consistent with that. I use oil on the feed. I have a mineral mix. Once again, I use a horse mineral mix called Equilibrium. I might have that up there, yeah. Equilibrium, it's a mineral mix. You know, they obviously make it in 20 kilo bags for horses, so it's not very dear, and it's a very good product. It works very well with the pigeons. I make up a special oil. I mentioned it there. I've got garlic oil. I put multivitamins, vitamin E and coenzyme Q10 into that oil, and I shake it and store it in the fridge. I put some of that oil on, along with some hemp seed oil, and I put the vitamins, the mineral mix, the vitamins and the yeast on their feed every Thursday. Every Thursday, yeah. Every Thursday I give them that on Thursday mornings because, well, when we get out of it, we basket on Thursdays or we basket on Fridays, so I want to give it to them on Thursday morning before they go. That really boosts them up when I give them that, and that's part of the final preparation to get them ready for that race. I use a mixture of fruit acids that I make up myself. That's citric acid, tartaric and malic acid. Malic acid is the same acid you get in apples. And I will use garlic during the molt and some apple cider vinegar if we get a lot of wet weather and that up there. I do find that garlic during the molt does help with the feed. It does help with the dropping of the feathers. That's my little mix up that I make up every Thursday. So I've got some flaxseed oil, some hemp seed oil. That's my special oil. That's the Equilibrium mineral mix. That's a vitalizer that I put on, and that's just brewer's yeast. And I mix it up in a bin like that, and I feed it to them, and they love it. Breeding pigeons. I got up there's no science to breeding racing pigeons, and that's a true statement. I mean, nobody can tell us, put that pair together and you'll breed winners. I mean, if somebody could do that, they'd do it in the horse racing industry or the greyhound industry, and they'd have winners out of every generation. But there's so many genes involved when you make two pigeons together that the end product, well, it's not a given. You have to suck it and see what you get. Obviously, you get 50% of the genes from each parent. It's just a little bit of interesting, well, not interesting, I suppose, worth knowing perhaps, science there, that the hens receive their X chromosome from their sire. If we just jump to the next one, I'll come back to that one. Next one. That one there. That's just to show, for what I wanted to tell you later on, that the cock has two X chromosomes and the hen has an X and a Y as far as the determination of the sex of the pigeon is. So the cock can only pass an X chromosome because that's all he's got to give. The hen can pass an X or a Y, so she determines the sex. So if she passes the Y, you end up with a hen. If she passes the X, you end up with a cock. And what that says is that the cock has a little bit more influence over his daughters than the hen does, because the cock always gives his X to the hens. Now the X chromosome, as far as the sex is concerned, carries additional. Can we just go back now, please? Okay, well, I'll talk about, just go on forward, I'm sorry. So the cock has two X, and the X chromosome carries additional genetic information. The Y chromosome does not. So two things come out of that, is that the hen decides the sex of the youngster, and the X chromosome from the cock always goes to the daughters. So if you have a top producing cock, you're better off keeping daughters from it, because there's a chance that he's passed a bit more information to his daughters than he does to his sons. So it's just something worth keeping in mind. So back to the other one now, please. So what I do with my family, I've got a family of pigeons. I know from my experience that I wasted a lot of good pigeons back in my early days. I let them slip through my hands, pigeons that I could have probably developed families around. But I was lucky enough to be given another chance later on when I had more knowledge. And I got a very good cock and a very good hen. I put them together for the first time and they produced me 5 club winners that year. And I thought there's something special about this pair, and there was. So I've bred around them ever since. They were a 98 hen and a 99 cock. So if you look at all my best pigeons, they're still sitting in the background. And I do inbreed them and line breed them. I'll talk a little bit about inbreeding, about that interrupted and uninterrupted line breeding in a minute. But that family of pigeons, they're in the background of those pigeons.
Switch might be off.
Just check your mic, please. Might have clicked it off. Or it might be flat.
Try that one.
Okay, so, is that one working?
Yep.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure where I got up to, but I had a 98 hen and a 99 cock, and I put them together, and I bred me 5 youngsters the first year I put them together, and I decided I'd build a family around them. And every generation they've been really good. They're still in the background of those pigeons, but I haven't sat still with that family. I haven't just said they're the only pair I'm going to breed around. I keep bringing new pigeons in all the time, but I've always made them into youngsters or grandchildren or whatever from that original pair. I always backmate to them, and I try those. If they work, I'll breed on with them. So the family is expanding all the time, and it's moving in the direction of performance, because everything that I keep is based on performance. So the family is growing. It's got more and more pigeons in it all the time, but it's always moving forward. I never try and go back and recreate those pigeons of yesteryear. Never try. I always keep moving forward based on what's winning for me. Like I said, introduce new crosses and backmate to it. If you look for those pair of foundation pigeons, sometimes now you can't even see them, they're so far back, but they'll be on both sides of the pedigree if you look back into my best pigeons. So that interrupted and uninterrupted line breeding, that's a theory the bloke put out, and it's probably worth having a little bit of look at. If we'll just flick on, and again, and again. Now this is what they call uninterrupted line breeding to a producer cock. I said there's no science to us, and this is not going to guarantee you to produce anything. But it is an interesting thing, and I keep it in mind a little bit when I'm mating pigeons up. So if you've got this producer cock F1, the first generation, that's the same pigeon. If we select a hen off him because we know that hen is carrying one of his X chromosomes, so we keep a hen off him, and from her we keep a cock because we know that X chromosome has gone to this cock. And from that cock we know that one of the X chromosomes could go to this hen, but at this stage it could get lost. But it's worth keeping in mind that that is what they call an uninterrupted line bred pigeon. Whether you go up this side, it's the same thing. And you bring your outcrosses in these various places and based on performance. Now, like I said, that there is a little bit of science, but that's not going to guarantee you anything, but it's something I keep in mind, and it's something I've looked at over the years.
Next slide.
Yeah, please. I've spoken about those. There's a little bit of information about them. They're the hen was 3/4 Jansen and 1/4 the old Balf lines, and the cock was bred from a Muleman cock and a stacked and reed hen. They just happened to click and be a terrific pair of pigeons. The only thing I don't like about them, I never wanted pieds or white flights in my pigeons. That hen, I raced that hen for 3 years. I clocked her 10 times. She won races. She was a beautiful pigeon. She won grand champion in the show 2 years running when we used to have shows up there. I wouldn't put her into stock because she had white flights. And then I got that Muleman cock and staff and reed hen. A little story about that. I might digress and tell you about that. A good mate of mine is Sid Gard in Sydney. Him and I were talking about pigeons that were coming up in sales, and we were trying to buy a couple and so forth. And he ended up with this pair of pigeons that I liked a lot. And when I went down there, I looked at his youngsters and I seen this young cock, and he stood out. And Sid said to me, "I've got a pigeon for you to take back." And it was that very pigeon I've been looking at. And I thought, "Oh, you beauty." But he had white flights. So when I got back home, I made it into something else, and then I thought, well, look, he's got white flights, the head's got white flights, I might as well put them together, and that was a pair. Now, my best pigeon is Snowy, and he's the gay-pied cock. And he's bred me 4 open federation wins. He's just a phenomenal pigeon. And he's coming back from that foundation pair. But Snowy's parents are a dark pencil cock and a blue bar hen. They've got no white on them whatsoever. But I put them together and they threw Snowy, and he was the only gay-pied they sent. And I said, I'm not going to keep this cock because he's got too much white on him. I raced him, I sent him out to 600 Ks. He landed with his sister at 300 Ks and they topped the Fed. He landed with his same sister at 450 Ks and they run second in the Fed, doing 1,008 metres a minute, and they were beaten the winner went 0.5 and I went 0.6, so they were beaten by nothing at 1,008 metres a minute. And he was such a fantastic looking pigeon, I said, oh, I've got to keep him. So now my pigeons are pencil points. So that's what I've ended up with. But I do try to bring in plain pigeons as crosses. And like I said, I always make forward, I don't go backwards. I line breed, I do keep sire to daughter and dam to son. I do keep matings like that. I won't race those pigeons. I'll breed off them and then see how they go and go on, and usually they do, because that family seems to be very potent. Could move on, I think, yeah. Okay, so that's the pair that bred Snowy. So that cock, that dark pencil cock up the top, he was my #1 stock cock. He was a very good race cock and he was a very good breeder, and you can see that's the foundation pair. That's the cock and that's the hen. There's the cock made it back to his daughter. So I've kept it going in there. That's an inbred son that never raced. It was off a sire to daughter mating. They bred, here's a cross that I brought in. That's a Len Vanderlinde. That's been the best cross I've brought in. Plain blue bar to try and keep the colour down. Bred this pencil cock. He was the top breeder. Made him to an outcross, which is this Staff and Reed hen. Again, a plain blue bar. Thinking I'm getting away from the pies. They breed that cock. Next one. So that cock made it to a plain blue bar hen, which again is going back to the foundation pair. So that's where I said I'd make back to the foundation. So the foundation pair's up there. There's that same cock to the sire to the daughter. Inbred. It's a different one, but it's inbred. That's that little pencil cock from the previous slide, breeding the dark pencil. Foundation pair here again. Another Gabby coming in here, and the Staff and Reed coming in there. Plain. That's he looks like a checker, but that's actually a dark pencil. And the blue bar hen. And what do they breed? A pencil pied cock.
Excellent.
Yep. That's my best pair of pigeons. The hen has since died. She died this year, unfortunately. Snowy to this hen here, which I call Matilda. They bred me 3 Open Federation winners, and between the two of them, they've bred 4 Open Federation winners themselves. So putting those two together has been a real bonus bit. So Snowy's got the inbred foundation pair on both sides. This hen here doesn't appear to have it in there, but this cock here, and that cock there is the full brother to that 559 cock. That 559 cock and that 541 cock are full brothers. That's the original Muleman cock from the old pied Staffy hen that I said bred that bird. So it's got that line back into it there. Oh no, sorry, there's the foundation pair there as well. Alright. And if you can guess, you might guess, that's Snowy's son. So I put Snowy to a plain blue bar, or actually back to his mother. So I've made it Snowy back to his mother. And I bred this young cock. And he bred a hen last year that took 2 second feds, a 3rd fed and a 6th fed, the same hen. She was a fantastic breeder, so I've got her now as well.